Business Talk, and I'm Norman Liss. This program is dedicated to helping people in business do business better. The subject that we're discussing today is growing businesses, and we have with us a gentleman who is really eminently qualified to talk about. His name is Leon Henry, and he's the president of Leon Henry Incorporated, which is a very successful business in Westchester. And we will explore with him all of the steps that take place in starting out, working from home, and looking forward. And I think there's something in what he has to say from his experience that will be very valuable to all of us. Leon, I'm delighted you could come here today and give us the this experience that you have and convert it into something. So we're going to talk about business in general, but let's start off by saying, what's really the hardest part about being in business?
Well, I thought about your question since you gave me an advance notice of it, and what occurred to me was that I've been in business for so long that I really don't remember when I didn't go. So I don't really have any difficulty in getting up and going to work in the morning, and I don't have anything that's the hardest thing for me. It's a part of my life at this moment. That may not be the answer you're looking for, but that's my answer.
Is being in business easy?
Well, it is under certain circumstances, and I can visualize where it would not be. For us, again, because we've been doing it, because we've honed a specialty or created a niche for ourselves, it's a lot easier than it probably is for a lot of people.
But in creating this niche, which we'll go into in a moment, you started from being a business working out of your home to an organization with 34, 35 people now.
No, probably 34, 35.
And very successful. So let's first talk about what business you're in. What does your company do?
Well, our company places direct mail advertising, literature, and other people's packages, most of which are mail order generated packages. So we're putting a directly responsive or mail responsive advertisement, a subscription for the Wall Street Journal, a Visa card application, photo finishing envelope in someone else's package. Or
so that means that if I get a mailing from a bill from my credit card company, there might be an insert in there?
That's highly probable, and it's possible that it's ours. If you get an LL Bean package that you've purchased or someone sent to you as a gift, there's going to be a number of outside advertisements that travel along in that package, and some of those will be ours as well.
So you're kind of a broker or between the advertiser and the distributor, so to speak.
We're a broker technically. We're a middleman. We're a piggyback expert, if you will, however you want to describe it.
But that business started 40 years ago from your home, didn't it?
Basically, that's correct.
So when you went into business, you came up with a concept, and you worked from home. And you found that working from home was a very successful way of doing business.
Well, originally I started from my home because I was just out of college, out of graduate school, and I had a modest amount of money. Of course, you didn't need too much money in 1955, 56 to live, but you still needed money, and by being in your home, you were saving money. So that was a basic reason for starting there.
But it still holds true today.
Absolutely.
But if you work from home, especially with all of the capabilities that we have electronically today, with fax and modem and answering machines and computers, that you really can work from home to a great extent. But in those days, you didn't have all of that.
Well, in those days, you were very vulnerable in a number of ways. You were quite obviously showing that you were working from home because you would have a residential address, number one. Number two, there were no computers or modems or Federal Express, so you were conspicuous by the way you were presenting yourself to the public population that you were trying to reach.
Okay, but Leon,
so it was a very difficult scene to be out of your home.
But it is not as difficult with a residential address today?
No, now it doesn't really matter.
Why?
There was an advertisement on television last night where the gist of which was that the company president has said to everybody, because the computers can interface, you can now all go home, and they all cheered. So everybody is pushing toward one of the things that they're trying to do is, besides cutting overhead or containing overhead, is to give more flexibility to the people that work. And therefore, there's going to be a very strong reason for people going home.
But what you're saying to me is that it's more acceptable today?
Absolutely.
And that's it. But you felt that working out of the home was the thing to do. You stayed doing it for 18 years.
Yeah, once I got over the initial hump, I liked it very much.
And you thought it was the thing to do because you wrote a book on the subject. It was now out of print and ahead of time. As a matter of fact, you brought along a copy to show of that book.
My past life, right.
Now, again, you were ahead of your time because you came out with this book long before it was a popular, common thing to do.
I did exactly that. I wish I had, it was done with the idea of being, so to speak, a underground Bible for those people that were literally underground or in their homes, and that's how it was sold, and it let off a lot of inside I don't know quite how to describe it, but I had an awful lot of fun doing it, and I had a lot of reasons for doing it. And when I got it off my chest, I was happy to go on from there.
Leon, do the things in this book hold true today?
I think that the things are exactly the same as they were then. The difference is only that you are dealing with technology that doesn't differentiate between where you are working from, whether it's where we are on Central Avenue or in the World Trade Center or in your home, which at that time was in Scarsdale.
Okay, so here you were, way ahead of your time, and you wrote this book, and I don't know how widely it was accepted, but
it was quite widely accepted.
So the guru of working at home, and then 22 years ago, you made a decision to build staff. It was you and your wife alone at the time with some part-time help.
That's correct.
And then you made a decision that you wanted to grow the business and move out. And I'd like to get into some of the thinking. When does one and how does one make a decision to grow? What are the factors what was your case? What was the impetus? What was the trigger that pushed you into saying, hey, I got to grow this business?
Well, it's surprising when I look back on it, but basically, Norman, it was because I felt I was missing something. Everybody that I was dealing with to be successful, all my customers were large companies, and I think I felt that I was missing something, and I really didn't look at it perhaps in the correct way, which was that if I didn't enlarge the business by providing services, I could eventually be swamped by not being able to provide services. So I backed into something that I perhaps, when I look again with the hindsight, should have seen more clearly at that moment, but it was a drive on my part to try something different. I had to try something different.
So it was change for change's sake?
I would say that had a lot to do with it, yes.
But didn't it take a lot of persuading to yourself that you didn't have to do everything? Because I understand you used to type your own letters.
I typed every letter and every bill. My wife ran the books. That's how the business was done in the beginning. But I sensed that there was a need for greater service, and at a certain point in time, anybody who tries to be successful, not counting a doctor or a lawyer, a person who's selling his own individual time, and to some extent those people as well, has to understand they've got to delegate out to someone else, and very often there are people that will do better than you can. That's
the key word now.
Right.
How does an entrepreneur who does everything himself, how does an entrepreneur say, hey, I'm going to delegate? Isn't delegation traumatic?
It's traumatic is putting it mildly as to what it is. You are constantly looking for yourself, literally, in the eyes and actions, in the actions, really, of the individual and individuals whom you delegate to.
Can you find it?
It's impossible, and you should never, ever expect to do that. Usually what happens is that they either do better or worse, and if you give them, which is something I've learned painfully, but I think successfully, if you give them enough opportunity, they'll do it better more often than you would have, and they'll certainly do it with a better, not 100% of the time, but they'll certainly do it better in that their approach to it is different than yours.
The art of delegation. Say, do this, and walk away from it. How does one delegate?
Well, that would be the biggest mistake that you could possibly make. You have to set up parameters for the people to deal with. They have to understand what your objectives are and what, therefore, their objectives within that are going to be. And you have to constantly monitor their performance until they're comfortable with what they're doing, whether they're the secretary. My secretary out of Hunter 19 years ago now is probably the finest salesman in the direct mail industry. And she, I think, will admit to the fact, and I will too, that it was a relationship where we gave her as much rope as we could give her each day. And she never hung herself, so to speak. So you have to give them the responsibility, but you have to explain what the responsibility is, and then if they can do that, then you give them a greater amount of responsibility, and you keep on building.
Okay. Now, you said your secretary, so she started as a secretary.
That's exactly right.
And now
my first secretary.
And now she's your top salesperson.
I think she's the top salesperson in the direct mail industry.
So how does one...
And I have 8 salespeople.
How does one take someone and move them up in a different job? Are we talking Peter principle here? Are we taking someone who's good in some job and then giving them an opportunity to do something better and losing it at that level and not achieving it at this level?
You've got to be very careful. The Peter principle, I think, is very apt. If you start to push a salesman, for example, into a sales manager's relationship and their expertise really is in selling, you've made a mistake, so you have to back off on that. On the other hand, if you keep somebody there and they're not going to grow because they're there, they have the capacity, you have to be smart enough to be able to see that. And so you set up, whether it's conscious, initially everything I did was unconscious. I mean, I did go to graduate school, but I didn't do a business plan. I just plowed ahead. But you have to have enough understanding in whatever business you are to know when you're off, and you build, so to speak, a set of safeguards. You don't commit all your capital, you don't commit all of your time or energy to something, you don't commit all of your attention to something and then have no fail-safe. So the same thing is true when you're setting up somebody to work. You give them enough so that they can go out and not feel uncomfortable and yet have enough latitude to, if they're successful, to repeat their success, and if they're successful again, to repeat it again and to grow. And it's a mutuality.
No. So you started with one employee, then
That's
two
correct.
employees. And how does one know when to move ahead? Is it based upon volume or projected volume or unwillingness to work so hard? What is the basis for growing beyond that first step of the decision to grow?
That's a double-barreled question. I've worked harder in the past 2 years than I believe, than I worked ever.
Why?
But also because I like it and because we had some competitive problems and also a different dimension that we're in. But to answer your question about the major question, ours is not capital intensive. It's brokerage, and brokerage by definition is putting two people together. Mm-hmm. So you want to, you really have to be very, very careful to watch your cash flow. It's not your cash, it's somebody else's cash, either that you have a legal or moral or both responsibility for. So you tend to lag behind what you see is coming. And as long as you do that, there'll be something left. In other words, if you spend less, it's a cliche, but it is the absolute axiom that one has to run a business by. That is, you have to take in more than you spend, and you just have to do that.
But there are, as in every business, there are hills and valleys, and so how does one add to overhead with personnel, with larger space, and project ahead so that if something does drop off, you're not saddled with a large overhead?
Well, when we went from our house to the office on Central Avenue, the first office we were out of within 6 months because it was too small. So there's a bit of a gut in certain types of businesses that you're dealing with, because we're not talking about businesses with heavy overhead. I don't know.
Gut is an interesting word,
Right.
and I'm going to explore that with you in a moment. But first, I do want to point out that This is Business Talk, and we're discussing business growth with Leon Henry, who has been in business for 40 years, and his business has grown from starting from his home to a business today which has about 35 employees. So let's talk about gut feeling, intuition, as someone has put it. Is that important in running a business?
Oh, I think it's very, very important. I think you have to stamp your own personality on. I think the reasons why people go into business, and I think I'm as good an example as a lot of people are, is that you want to be in control of your own destiny. So in my case, I created something out of nothing to satisfy inner urges that I had. And I created it in the beginning so that I didn't have to leave my home and go into the city. Even though I've got a graduate business degree, I wanted certain things, or it became obvious to me that I wanted them. And when I went further, I wanted more, meaning a greater, larger business, but I wanted it to reflect my own personality. So I created something that's now widely copied. It's certainly not the same as Bill Gates or anything in a technical nature or that extraordinary in terms of financial remuneration, but I created something that was of my own. And I think that that's very, very important, because you're still taking a tremendous risk, which is that you could fail, and lots of people do. There's a high percentage of failure, although there shouldn't be that high a number. But I think the individuality is something that is deep down driving individuals who go into business.
You mentioned the word created something, and let's talk about some things that you did create, and that is having your children in the business with you.
Yes.
You have your daughters in the business. They're competent. Does that make it a family business? Because certainly a very small percentage of your employees are family.
Well, let me try to answer that differently, or explain something to you. What was one of the things we, again, didn't understand except by hindsight. We have 3 families within the business, because what happened is that our original employee, who's still with us, brought her niece in, who started out as a secretary, who rose through our company, who brought her daughter in. We have our young lady, whom I told you is our star salesperson, brought her sister-in-law in, and then for a long time, my wife and I, and maybe the last 5 or 6 years, did not know what was going to happen with the business. We were certainly on a crest because of the postal rate increases that have happened in our company.
And the new one that's here now.
But our daughters were very successfully establishing themselves after having graduated from college, and we were very happy with what they were doing. And then one of them approached us and said that she'd like to come work for us, that she'd worked for 10 years with big business and felt she'd like to try to do something with us. And we said, if you want to start from the bottom up, you can. Now, and that's how it started with our family.
But you have, as you say, a multi-family business, because there are several families within there, and there's a family relationship with your employees.
Yes, it is really that.
Are there advantages and disadvantages of that?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's discuss them both.
Well, the advantages are that everybody knows each other, and you're going to develop a personality, and whatever that personality is pretty much going to become apparent to you, and you're going to live with it, and it can't be easily shed. And therefore, the disadvantages, which we have found out, you can't, if yours is a Hamish relationship, which is what ours is, a family relationship, you're considerate of these people with all of their various difficulties that everybody has in life, and you have to see it through. Therefore, you cannot be hard-nosed past a certain point. I mean, we expect people to come in and work, but
is that a disadvantage that you're discussing here?
These become the disadvantages of it.
And
you can't. Well, the 2 disadvantages are that you're not going to stray very far from the core of whatever you've decided to do, and you are not going to be able. At least I don't believe you're going to be able to, again, change that, unless business changed so dramatically that you would have to go out and do something very different. I mean, if your business were going out the window, or you had to cut overhead for whatever reason, you lost accounts or something like that, you'd probably have to change. But if you try to adopt a different suit of clothing, so to speak, or different personality, it can't be done. You've established yourself as one way, and that's what makes everybody happy.
But those disadvantages are obviously outweighed by the advantages.
Absolutely,
And,
yes.
and why?
People, they go the extra mile for my wife and myself. We're able to take long trips. We like to travel. We never call the office. We have an ad hoc management group, which we're now beginning to formalize. They consider us to be, I believe, I can say this in candor, they're not their parents so much, but intimate relationship that's almost the same as if it were a family. So you get a lot of those advantages, I feel.
It appears to me, from everything that you've said, that your business is your life.
Unfortunately, that's absolutely true. If you get into the type of a situation that I've been in, which is really inventory intensive, non-mechanical or non-technical, where the drive is based on what you yourself are creating, that you've thought through up to a point, you better be prepared to do it on an ongoing basis, constantly, which means that if you have a nationwide business, which we do, you're going to travel the United States relatively heavily. That's going to be part and parcel of your lifestyle. If people call you after 6, you're going to have to answer the phone. If they call you if your phone rings in your home, which ours has done for 39 years to be precise, you're going to answer the phone. So you're not going to divest yourself of that part of the business.
Is that something that you would advise others to do? To be on call 24 hours a day, to have the phone ring at home, to be responsive, and to live your life through your business? Your wife's in the business, your children are in the business.
Well, it's first of all, it's been very, very good to us, probably better than we ever thought it would be. Certainly looking backwards, it's been
financially.
that way. Financially, it's been...
But what do you mean by good to us?
It's enabled us to, both of us, because my wife's my partner, and each of us to broaden our horizons in terms of what we've done. I never expected to be able to run a business with 30-some-odd people in it. I never expected to get some of the honors that I've gotten, and some of the financial rewards I've gotten, and some of the abilities to do the things that I have. So that's very important.
Let's take it a step further. How does one involved in a business, a warm-feeling business, a successful business, a growing business because of the success of the concept and other outside factors like postal increase, how does one think about letting go, spending less time, delegating without checking as much, and what about the future, projecting towards retirement? Does the thought of retirement at whatever point frighten you?
Well, currently I think it does, because we're still in a mode where, or track, if you will, to use the current cliche, postage rates, we're postal sensitive, so as the rates go up, there's a greater demand for our business, which is substitution for the post office, and we're not going to walk off of a business when it's doing well.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about walking off.
No,
I'm talking about the business continuing, and what would you do not being there every day to supervise, and what would you do with your time since virtually all of your time is spent in the business?
Well, outside of being the Norman Liss of 1995, first of all, I think you have to recognize that you are mortal, that you have to delegate and continue to delegate to people and reward them. We have a mentoring system in our office that we're very conscious of trying to bring in talent, raise it up. I want to spend a greater amount of time in the office doing that. I want to try to narrow down what I'm doing and make sure that the business runs. 50% of it runs without me, but that's the half that my wife does, and which is the financial end, which is very tricky. And then I want to begin to see what happens with this body of knowledge that I built up that I can apply someplace else. The other problem is that unlike our parents, let's say, who would work 6.5-day weeks and want out because of the intensity of what they were doing and the necessity for which they're doing, I don't have that drive, and therefore you have to create something that's equally strong. And I believe until you can create that, if you're fortunate enough to have that, an honest, true drive that's equal to or close to equal to your business, you probably can seg you over. If you don't have it, you're going to have a very big problem, because the intensity with which you've pushed and prodded and stood behind this business and are the last, whatever which way you want to put it, but you're the last, the buck stops here.
Can you
drive takes a lot out of you.
Can you conceive of not working? Can you conceive of not having to get up and go someplace every day?
I couldn't possibly conceive of that at this moment. I tried it twice now, and it's not my personality.
I mean, you can't see having other interests and you play tennis and maybe spend all there's not enough in it. So as far as you're concerned, we did say earlier that your business is your life. Can you possibly see a time when you would not be working?
Well, answering your question today, the answer is no, I can't see that.
Okay.
Realistically speaking, I feel that I have to look toward that. I think that in our particular industry, the direct mail industry, it's and I think this is true in a lot of industry. First of all, you have the female factor, you have the age factor. It's pushing down. You have the responsibility factor. People are doing in the 30s what 20 years ago wouldn't be done until they're 40, and so you have to recognize that and try to deal with it. And if it means, in effect, that I have to find something, or someone who would be in my position would have to find something, I think that that's what I'm going to have to do. And I'm very, very conscious of it. On the other hand, there's some people whom I've met over the years whose great desire is to start a business, and I started a business, and I've been fine-tuning it, and I just can't see myself walking off and starting another business.
What we must do is walk off now, because we've run out of time. I thank you very much for coming and enlightening us. My guest today has been Leon Henry, and we've talked about business growth. I'm Norman Liss. The name of the program is Business Talk. Until next time at this time, good luck to you.